I was inspired to become a family lawyer really in order to help people. I know that may sound trite, but it's the reality. I see it as a journey that people embark on. I see people when they're really at their worst, when they're getting separated or going through a divorce. And I like to think that I've somehow made a difference. So at the end of the journey, they walk off and I've sorted out their divorce, sorted out the financial aspects, and obviously helped with the children as well. So a good family lawyer will sit down with their client and talk about the issues and then pick up the phone or write to the other side and see if you can resolve them without going to court. Court is always the last resort. We now have a number of mechanisms in this country for trying to resolve disputes before they get to court. So there's the possibility of mediation, which involves the parents sitting down with a mediator, and the mediator's role is to try and facilitate an agreement between the two of them. Now, sometimes parents say, well, there's no way I'm going to sit down with my spouse. And that's fine, because you can also have shuttle mediation, which is where the mediator will shuttle from one room to another and then try and broker a deal between the parents. Another option that's come in recent times is something called the Separated Parent Information Plan, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but that's something that is run across England and Wales. The cost is £150. It's something that the parents have to pay for themselves, but what it does is it educates them on what it's like to actually parent their children when they're separated. They don't attend it together. It's small groups of about 8 to 10 parents, and it's absolutely invaluable. I've had numerous clients who've gone on this plan and they think it's brilliant because what it does, it makes them look at separation from the children's perspective. It's not about them as the grown-ups, it's about the children and what's best for the children. There's also the possibility of what's called arbitration, which is an alternative to the court process. Rather than going to a courtroom, you'd sit in a solicitor's office or in a barrister's office, and you'd have a senior solicitor or a senior barrister who would make a decision, having heard the evidence, having heard what the case was about. So that's also a good way of keeping things out of court. There's also another possibility, which is called collaborative family law. And collaborative family law means that both parents at the outset sign up with their respective lawyers to an agreement that says that if they can't reach an agreement through a series of meetings, they have to sack their lawyers in order to instruct new solicitors to go to court. So it was described to me before I trained as essentially you velcro yourself to the table until such time as a deal is done. So the way that the court determines how parenting time should be divided between the parents is governed by an act called the Children Act 1989. And essentially what the court says is you always look at what is in the best interest of the child. The welfare of the child is paramount. And then there's a whole list of factors that the court will take into account. The child or the children's wishes and feelings is one of those factors. Now, sometimes parents will say, well, a 9-year-old or a 12-year-old child doesn't want to see the other parent, so therefore they shouldn't see them. It's not as clear-cut as that. You then have to look into, well, why does that child not want to see the other parent? There are other factors the court takes into account as well, such as the emotional needs of the child, any physical disabilities that the child has, the reason why one parent may be objecting to the child going to see the other parent. So wishes and feelings are a factor, but it's not all determinative. Parents will sometimes say things in the nicest possible way to manipulate their children. They may do it overtly, they may do it without realising it, because tensions and emotions are running very high. And that's why a third party, neutral, independent, such as an independent social worker or a court and family reporter, really gets to the heart of the issue. What are the issues between the parents and how can they be addressed? The advice I would give would be, please think about this. You're the grown-ups. The children are your children. At the end of the day, they're half of the person that you're separating from or divorcing. You made that child together. So always think, if you're going to start saying something bad about the other parent, don't do it, because that child is half of each of you. So really try and keep the arguments away from the children.